Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Jordan Spurgeon. Thank you for joining us. The Maricopa County Department of Public Health has discovered Phoenix's first cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. The 6 cases were reported exactly 1 year since COVID-19 vaccines first arrived in Arizona. County officials say that of the 6 people who tested positive for the Omicron variant, 3 of the cases included adults varying in age from their late teens to their 60s. They had not traveled internationally. Most were also fully vaccinated. To date, no serious illnesses or deaths have been reported due to the Omicron variant. However, health officials fear that the new variant could become the dominant variant, surpassing the Delta variant over the course of the next few weeks. Many Arizona Banner Health hospitals are operating at full capacity with both COVID and non-COVID patients. Banner Health's Chief Clinical Officer, Dr. Marjorie Bessel, says the state is experiencing concerning hospitalization trends. She also said that the best way to combat the rising hospitalization rate is to get vaccinated or boosted, wear masks, and seek other options like urgent care for non-emergency situations.
We are more stretched now than we have been since the start of the pandemic. Many of you have read and written stories about the national shortage of healthcare workers. We are experiencing the impact of this shortage in our hospitals, with many core team members who have decided to retire, exit the healthcare industry, or transition to non-bedside roles because of prior surges and the enormous physical and mental impact the pandemic has had on them.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey announced today that a total of $460,000 is going to the AZ Coronavirus Relief Fund to help support food banks throughout the valley. The funding, which will be dispersed by the Arizona Food Bank Network, will help support organizations in mostly rural counties of the state that lack access to major funding streams available in larger counties. In total, more than 40 organizations in rural counties will receive funding, which will help provide residents in those counties with better access to meals over the holiday season and beyond. Football has historically been a sport dominated by men. Slowly, women have been gaining ground in the game, from referees to play-by-play to assistant coaches. But now, on the high school level, more and more women are becoming head coaches. Cronkite News reporter Ashlyn Register has more on how a coach in Arizona made history over the summer.
Barriers have been broken in Yuma. Ready? When Jessica Slaughter was named the head football coach of Gila Ridge High School in 2021, she became the first female at the helm of a big conference varsity team in Arizona in over a decade. But Trailblazer status is not the priority for the new coach.
I'm not here to be a first female anything. I'm just here to coach the kids. That's all it's about. I'm just here to work with the program. I don't care about any firsts, anything like that.
Slaughter has been part of the Hawks football program for the last 5 years, serving as the head coach of the freshman team for the last 3. In her new role, combined with her passion for football, Coach Slaughter has had an opportunity to inspire some of the same players she has coached in the past.
She's in love with the sport and she's in love with these kids. I just think that she personally, to me, has made me want to keep playing and want to go further if I wanted to.
Born and raised in Yuma, Slaughter is an alum of Gila Ridge High School. She played on the football team for 2 years as a guard and defensive tackle before switching to track and field. After she attended college in West Virginia, she returned to Yuma and Gila Ridge as a math teacher and has been here ever since.
I am Gila Ridge. This is my school. I love the school. I can't imagine teaching or coaching anywhere else. I'm actually the second graduating class to come from here that's spent the full 4 years here, so I take a lot of pride in being a Gila Ridge Hawk.
After spending most of her life in Yuma, Coach Slaughters is recognizable around town, from Walmart to Circle K, and the support that she gets from the community never goes unnoticed.
Still know me, they still get excited to see me, and when I see them, it might take a second to remember the name, but I never forget a face.
Positive aura for our football team here. Yes, and she has gotten good community support from being head coach. And just because she's the head coach, it has nothing to do about anything else. She's the right fit that we're looking for here at Gila Ridge.
The Gila Ridge community has embraced Slaughter as the leader of their program. That support extends to parents as well.
They're behind her. She has a great way of communicating with the parents, and it's all about the kids. It's not about anyone else. It's 100% about the athletes under her.
And Coach Slaughter is already having much success. In October, she was named Arizona Cardinals Coach of the Week.
Of course, I'm honored to receive that award. It's a very cool thing. I didn't expect it, but I think it just brings more light to the program, and I think that's what's more important.
That award is just the first step of many in leaving a lasting legacy at Gila Ridge High School.
I want to lead a successful program, of course, but I want the kids to step away from this program, whether they go to their job, they go to college, the military, whatever, just knowing that whatever they're passionate about or whatever challenges that they face, that they can meet those challenges.
As a pioneer in high school football, Slaughter is carving a new path at Gila Ridge, one that will give her players lessons that extend beyond the football field. In Yuma, Ashton Register, Cronkite Sports Report.
And now, a look back at some of our top stories concerning Arizona wildlife and some super cute surf dogs.
Each winter, the Salt River Project Utility Company lowers the water levels along the Salt River in order to provide water and energy to more than 2 million Arizonans. But regulating the water levels has impact along the river. Megan Newsham shows us how wildlife, specifically the wild horses, handle these changes in flow.
About 440 wild horses depend on this river to hydrate, to play, and above all, eat.
You know, we're so close to the metropolis of Phoenix, right? Where you can see wildlife. There are so many recreational activities, and above all, people come here to see these beautiful, wild, free-roaming Salt River horses.
Salt River Wild Horse Management Group is an Arizona-based nonprofit dedicated to managing and protecting the horses that roam this area of the state. And protecting the horses also means protecting their food supply, specifically the eelgrass.
It's just really breaks our heart when we see them lose this resource that they really need for their survival.
However, nature is no longer in charge of the Salt River. Its levels are controlled by SRP, the Salt River Project Utility Company.
SRP is a power and water provider for the valley. And on the water side, we serve over 2 million customers.
SRP controls the levels of the river by using a dam to release a certain amount of water. The difference between the water levels in summer and winter months is extreme, going from 800 to 1,500 cubic feet per second during summer months to sometimes less than 8 cubic feet per second in the winter. To better understand the difference in the water levels, last week the Salt River behind me was at 800 cubic square feet, which would mean that the water level was about up to my knees, and now it looks like this.
And when they shut it off, it kills the eelgrass, which the horses depend on.
David Stallings is a volunteer for the Wild Horse Management Group and says for the past 3 years they have tried to stop the Salt River Project from lowering the levels below 100 cubic feet per second.
We're not asking to keep it at 800, 900 CFS because that would be unreasonable, would cost them a lot of money and too much effort, and they have customers and stakeholders. But 100 CFS is about 10% of what they keep it in the summer, and at 100 CFS we could keep most of that eelgrass alive.
Salt River Project says this request is not as simple as it sounds.
So the request to increase those fall releases from 8 CFS to 100 CFS out from Stewart Mountain Dam actually puts about 9 million gallons of water at risk every year that operation is continued.
And Skarupa says saving this amount of water every year is crucial because of historic droughts. However, the Salt River Wild Horse Management Group believes keeping the water levels higher helps the entire ecosystem, not just the horses.
Tadpoles that are salamanders and frogs and all kinds of rare reptiles and fish here in the lower Salt River. So we could preserve that life and the eelgrass for all of the ecosystem.
The challenge will be dividing this resource with humans and horses for years to come. In Phoenix, Megan Newsham, Cronkite News.
The Wild Horse Management Group was unable to come up with a settlement between SRP. The water levels will be lowered again this winter. This means the rescue group will have to begin their feed program. To find out more information, or if you would like to donate, go to saltrivermanagementgroup.org.
There's around 3,000 water catchments throughout the state of Arizona in various states of repair. Reporter Balin Overstolz-McNair visited a site near Flagstaff to show us how they are used.
These man-made water supplies for wildlife were first built in the 1940s and originally for quail, but now they serve all wildlife. The Arizona Game and Fish Department is redeveloping the Middle Trick tank near Walnut Canyon as the need for water increases. They're installing a new system that could sustain itself for up to 50 years.
We have had a couple years here and there where we've gotten good winter rains or we've gotten good summer rains, but by and large, over the last 20-some years, putting together several good years of what we consider to be normal precipitation, they just don't seem to exist so much anymore.
Ed Jarkey, who manages water projects, says it's hard to know exactly how effective water catchments are because there are so many dating back roughly 80 years. But the animals do use them.
The site behind me, we've already had a herd of elk come into this, but without a doubt, they're usually in here. As soon as the trucks pull out, animals start to explore it. So.
Right now, contractors are hurrying to finish the Little Trick tank, which will drain water into here, where animals will be able to access drinking water during the hot summer months, but also throughout the year. These tanks are actually able to self-sustain themselves with rainwater if there's enough during the year. Arizona Game and Fish does not receive state tax money for these projects, and they have to create their own funding. They also rely on volunteers like Tom Mackin, who has been working on projects for 35 years.
Well, for me, it's the personal satisfaction of knowing that I've made a small difference in my little corner of the Region 2 for Game and Fish.
Mackin says it's not easy work to help protect wildlife.
You talk about carrying capacity for wildlife, you're talking about food, water, shelter, and space. And without any one of those, the space and everything else is for naught. It has to be all in balance.
Volunteers have been maintaining water catchments since 2008. If you're interested in the Adopt a Catchment program, just know that there is a certification process and the work does require specific skills. In the studio, Ballin Overstoles McNair, Cronkite News.
Arizona summers bring not only the heat, but also wildfires, kitten season, and monsoon season. Even though it's getting cooler out, some shelters are still seeing an overflow of animals. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Long visited local shelters to see how monsoons have impacted their capacities.
We definitely have had a lot of capacity issues, and it's just a whole conglomerate of all of these different things just coming together.
These storms bring the possibility of pets escaping homes in panic. Here in Maricopa County, officers like Stephanie Gallego spend their day responding to calls all across the valley.
During monsoons, people fail to rectify their fencing, so there's fences that are already lacking security.
Monsoon season lasts from June through September, and during these months, in 2020 alone, about 6,500 dogs were brought into the shelter, according to Maricopa County Care and Control.
The summertime is probably busier for us. I know it sounds contradicting. There's more people out and about, so there's more opportunities for an encounter with a dog and a human.
Building a positive relationship between your animal's behavior and loud storms, along with maintaining a secure home, are just a couple ways to keep your pet safe during monsoon season. In Phoenix, Nicole Long, Cronkite News.
The creosote bush is the most common shrub in the desert areas of the Southwest. And it is more than just drought tolerant. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Long has more on why this plant is unique.
You can spot this plant on the side of the road. But it's more than just a regular shrub.
One of the things that makes them of interest for medicinal use is also one of their desert adaptations. They produce a really thick, waxy, and oily surface on their leaves. There's a couple different compounds that are really unique.
Here at Desert Sage Herbs, those waxy leaves are infused into teas and salves that can treat up to 50 different illnesses.
So internally, it's used more for a lot of acute situations, like maybe infections, as a detoxifier, a cleanser, even detoxify like something like if you had a scorpion bite.
As a registered herbalist, Sonar is familiar with the plant and personally uses it to treat cuts and scrapes.
Kind of like how maybe more mainstream would use more of a Neosporin or something like that. Like in our household, we use salves of creosote.
Although this plant may seem exciting to try out, it's important to use caution and talk to a specialist before ingesting it. In Phoenix, Nicole Long, Cronkite News.
The creosote bush can be highly toxic to people with kidney and liver issues. Always consult a health specialist before trying any new treatments.
Surf's Up. California's best surfing dogs flocked to Huntington Beach for some doggone fun over the weekend. Cronkite News reporter Jude Binkley takes us to the event.
The dog days of summer aren't over yet. Canines came to Huntington Beach to compete for barking rights in Surf City Surf Dog. The competition shared the beach with the U.S. Open of Surfing. Dog breeds of all sizes came to hang 20 in this unique sport.
I don't have to put him on there. He's a 100-pound dog, so he gets on if he wants to, and he just jumps right on.
Speaking of which, here we go right now.
He's barking and yelling the whole way out until he gets on the board.
Today's competition was divided into several categories based on dog size, tandem surfers, and dog-human pairs. Now, while there were winners in today's events, what mattered most for the competitors were the smiles on everyone's faces.
You look here today, everybody on this beach is smiling. And it's because we all love the dogs. And the dogs will do anything for us. They're just out here, they're having a great time.
Over its 11-year history, more than 500 surfers have participated in the event. From Faith the surfing pit bull, to Derby the golden doodle, to Guinness the English bulldog, dogs of all sizes hit the waves. Known as Surf City USA, Huntington Beach frequently hosts pro competitions. Even if the pups don't have a good ride, they're here to have fun. And for their owners, it's a chance to strengthen their bond with man's best friend. In Huntington Beach, Jude Binkley, Cronkite News.
Surf City Surf Dog also showcased pet adoptions and raised money for several animal rescue charities.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. Next on Break It Down, we examine the increase of women coaches in male-dominated sports. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream. For the first time ever, our most popular programs have been selected just for you.
But there's so much more.
Whether you like to travel,
Wow.
feast,
And calories don't count.
look back,
That is me.
discover.
You know the whole story.
There's something for everyone.
Let's get to it right away.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app.
Break It Down is brought to you in part by Mayo Clinic and viewers like you.
Paul, thank you for joining us to break it down on the seeming growing number of women coaching at high levels in professional sports, men's sports, traditional men's sports. And I've been looking forward to this conversation with you. You know, after watching the Super Bowl, we had the first two women as assistant coaches, and in the NBA, we got Becky Hammonds. We had a woman officiating in the Super Bowl. I guess for the baseline, and you follow this stuff closely, the numbers really are increasing. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, first of all, when I was young and, I used to put like eye black on my Barbie dolls because that was the closest thing I would get to playing football. I never imagined this was even a possibility. It didn't even enter my mind. So to see not only the increase in the NFL, but you mentioned the NBA, around college sports. I think the only thing we're not seeing, Ken, is women getting the opportunity, especially at college, to be like head coaches of women's teams like they used to. Because back in the day, I think before Title IX, women dominated coaching women's teams. When money started funneling into these colleges and universities, they started paying coaches better. And so the men kind of started taking over a lot of these jobs. So that's the only concern I see right now as far as men are coaching women's teams. But my gosh, if we can get women coaching men's teams, that would be unbelievable.
That's a great undertold point. So for all non-historians and non-old people and non-journalists that follow this stuff. So 1972, Title IX, passes, and the thought was that there would be this increasing number of women as head coaches. And you're right. What happened, a number of jobs opened up and men got those jobs. I guess, the benefit of Title IX, if I'm understanding it, was more so that women got to play more, that there were more opportunities to play. Is that
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gave women the opportunities at all levels to play and compete. And I think we've seen that now. It's been so great. I think young girls, for many years, the sort of body image that they would see on magazine covers was the starving model. And now we see them as these sort of strong, athletic women on covers of magazines. And that's been fantastic. And I think a lot of that has to do with they're being provided opportunities to play sports at a young age and supported through high school and through college and having more opportunities.
But we have this moment going on now, and there is no Rooney Rule, which actually says for minority coaches that a minority coach must be hired. So presumably women could be included in that calculation. It doesn't say person of color specifically. Right. First, why is the change occurring now? And then should there be a Rooney Rule in terms of hiring for women?
That's a great question. So I think a couple of things have happened. One, and thank goodness for this, the climate of our country, where people are using their voices to speak about racial injustice, and athletes are very strong leading figures in this movement. So I think it's partially a reaction to what we've been seeing the last few years in sports, but it's also, people like Greg Popovich of the Spurs, when he hired Becky Hammond, everyone was like, what? And it worked just fine. And players didn't blink. And this is what I love about most of the modern day players now. Things that I grew up with that people reacted to, they're like, this is fine, it works. So I think people like Greg Popovich took a stand. Bruce Arians, who just won a Super Bowl, hired the first female football coach when he was with the Cardinals. It was like an internship, but that opened eyes. And you look at what happened this year, the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay wins with 2 women on their staff. One is an assistant line coach, one is, I think, a strength and conditioning coach. So I think it's all been a reaction to kind of this movement, and it's phenomenal because this is what we needed more than anything, for young girls to be able to turn on their TV and see something and think it's normal and be able to aspire to it. Until
you and I just have this conversation, I hadn't really thought about deeply enough the intersection between these two moments.
Right.
That women are having this, and frankly, let's call it modest success until there is this real big breakthrough, but it's something that should happen. All these women can outcoach anybody that's below them. They should be where they are.
Right.
But then you have these black head coaches who have hit this wall, one of 7 hires in this last round with the NFL, to focus on the NFL specifically. And it's not something, in my opinion, again, this is why I hesitate, because I've been thinking about this a lot. We're in a pandemic. I have time to reflect on these things.
Exactly.
It's not something you can legislate.
Right.
It really is the old, for all us old David Halberstam, hearts and minds, Vietnam kind of people. You got to change hearts and minds some kind of way for that kind of change to come. So what do you think about that? Is that how those two fit together?
Well, the whole hearts and minds thing is fascinating to me, because you're right. I think legislating, even the whole, giving women opportunities, I could see such backlash, and backlash is fine. That's how we get change done. But if you look at what just happened with female sports journalists in the last couple weeks, executives in baseball were harassing them on their phones with text messages and things like that. There's still a problem with how a lot of people view women in sports, whether it is at a journalistic level, whether it is at a coaching level. And that recent stuff appalled me, because I thought we had put that behind us. So I think we still have a lot of work to do in that arena you're talking about, of not legislation necessarily, although I think there might be room for some, but convincing and getting people in a different mind frame about women in the world of sports.
So Paula, to close out, Who will be, let me rephrase that. What will the first men's league be that has not just in a fleeting moment, that has a woman as a head coach?
Definitely, I think at the NBA, simply because I think they got a bit of a head start with Becky Hammond, with the Spurs, seeing the success that is. Football is slowly getting there, but I don't think they're at that point. I haven't heard much of a conversation with hockey. And baseball, we're seeing very important hire in a general manager position, which is fantastic. But I think right now the NBA has a head start with the coaching. So that would be my guess. Don't hold me to it.
No, I'll hold you to it. No,
okay.
Thank you, Paula. It was Bruce Arians said it was time to knock those doors down. So thank you for breaking down the evolution of women in coaching in the NFL and elsewhere. Thank you, Paula.
Oh, thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.